Hey guys, it's John and I'll test prep with another problem of the day explanation. Maybe not another, this is problem of the day number one. I'm not dating them because it's entirely possible that I'll be too lazy to do one of these every day, but I do promise to keep them coming at a pretty rapid pace. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, let's see, what's the problem? It's a DS problem. And looks like it involves some quadratics, difference of squares, some stuff like that. So you should definitely, if you haven't tried the problem already, take a second, pause the video, see what you can do. So hopefully you gave it a good try and you came up with the right answer. Well, let's go ahead and work through it together. So the first thing we should do with a DS problem is always rephrase. So this one, I mean, there's some rephrasing to be done. Usually rephrases work best with yes-no questions, and this is a value question, so we're probably not going to get some really kick-ass rephrase out of this. The most obvious thing would be, well, if we knew the values of x and y would be set, right? So that's the obvious one. And when it comes to value DS, especially with some algebra, usually the equations or the formulas given in the question are not in the most convenient form. And this would definitely be the case here. We can manipulate that and we get, it's a difference of squares. So x squared minus y squared times x squared plus y squared. If you're not familiar with difference of squares factorization and all the different weird forms it can take, you should definitely do some work on that. In my opinion, the people at GMAT kind of have a fetish with this way of thinking. And right away we see that rephrasing or rewriting the formula kind of gets us started because clue number one, that formula appears in our rephrase. So considering statement number one, we've got the rephrase and then we substitute 16 for the x squared minus y squared. So now we've got 16 times x squared plus y squared is equal to our expression, but we can't really factor that anymore and we still don't have any information about how this might happen. So that's going to be insufficient. So now we move on to statement number two, and keep in mind that answers A and D are no longer possible because we eliminated statement number one. So statement number two, x plus y equals 8. Well, that can happen like, I don't know, an infinite number of ways. So that's a lot of ways, unfortunately. And we're not going to be able to investigate that to any end that's going to help us. So we're just going to, okay, so what? Insufficient. Now, statements 1 and 2, hopefully you're getting a little bit excited at this point. You might have noticed that during our rephrase, I didn't factor all the way. X squared minus y squared on the right-hand side of the rephrase is also a difference of squares and can be factored. And that turns out to be x plus y times x minus y. So now we've got this equals 16, and we know that the x plus y is 8. So that means that x minus y must be 2, right? So you've got 8 times x minus y equals 16, and x minus y is 2. Okay, this is looking pretty good. I'm getting excited. And now I have this system of equations. I know that x plus y is 8 from statement number 2. And I know x minus y is 2 by combining statements 1 and 2. And this system of equations is like already custom designed for elimination, right? If we add these two equations together, we'd get 2x equals 10 and x equals 5 and so on and so forth. And we'd substitute that in and get y equals 3, and then we can calculate. But this is a DS problem, so I'm not going to do any of that because I don't have to. I know that I can solve this, and that's that. I'm done. Sufficient, right? So the correct answer is C. So just to recap, anytime you get a formula in your DS prompt, probably it's not in the most convenient form. It doesn't really pay for the test writers to make everything nice and clean and obvious. So you should almost always manipulate it. Just don't take it at face value because they put it in some sort of form that is going to force you to do something. And then, as you go, you work through it. And I think the most important other takeaway of this is at the very end, I recognize a system of equations that can be solved. Now, DS appeals to a lot of people because you don't always have to do the work. But there's some backup work that you should have done at some point, hopefully in high school or maybe as you're studying, where you become familiar with these patterns and you start to recognize things that can and can't be solved. And the more familiar you become with these patterns, you'll start to recognize whole DS setups where it leads to a certain system of equations that you know you can solve. And then once you get there, just stop. Sufficient, right? Okay. Well, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe and keep coming back for more. As I said, it's entirely possible I'll be too lazy to do one of these every day, but I'll try and keep them coming at a pretty regular pace. Thanks, and that's it.